This is your daily market recap for Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. Let's go. Hey everyone, this is my channel to help investors and traders develop a probability-based mindset to succeed. Also try and keep friends informed of what's going on in the markets and the economy, and also a little real estate content as well. This is Dan Max at EXPI Realty, aka the Trading Agent, and this is your daily market recap for Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. Hopefully people have been safe, been smart, been thoughtful. Again, bears, bulls make money. Getting a little extreme downside near term. Some things reverse like we thought. Now again, in a probability game, when things start to get almost unpredictable, keep warning people, just be careful, trade smaller, be more thoughtful about surviving and, doing well when you can, but taking small chunks. The higher the volatility, the harder it is to get straight line moves, in the sense that from point A to point B might not be easy. Again, I apologize. The Discord room is not open to the public, but if you have questions, please DM me on whatever platform you're checking out. Love to help if I can. I appreciate all the patience with people. I know a lot of people are like, where you been? I'm around. I'm watching the markets. I'm also doing 1,000 things. I think the people who know that I'm extremely busy for the next week, maybe a little into next week, hopefully not. Trying to slow down. Tomorrow is a big day for me, trying to get a bunch of landscaping work done at a property with a friend for investment. Is what it is. You sign up for this kind of stuff, you help people out, you got to help yourself too. So I apologize I'm not always around, but when in doubt, don't err on the side of too much risk. I just warning people, the market can get way crazier than you think. I promise you that. Bitcoin holding up. Looks like 19,000 area is holding. I would not be surprised at some point if it gets back to 17 or pops up 25. Unfortunately, it looks like dead money. It's going sideways. Not what most people want to hear. Just is what it is. Oh, that's supposed to be oil. Again, if you're not follow me, make sure you check out on Twitter. Follow me on YouTube as well. Whatever outlet you're checking on. I mean, I try to keep as much updates as I can. Zero hedge, always something bad there. Anyway, oil. Is anyone surprised that we said the 76, 75 range? It's major resistance. Support equals resistance. I think y'all can see very clearly. Let me see if I can draw on a little rectangle. There you go. There you go. I mean, I'm not surprised it's bouncing here at the hurricane stuff. I don't think the hurricane's going to be that bad. Just going to cause a lot of rain. Just in general, as I've said, do not expect a full tank down to in the mid 60s just yet. I think we're about to get some choppiness. I ultimately think we will get down there. It's just when the market capitulates. That's the thing. It's hard here. People really want a short oil service. I'd rather go to solar, some of these other EV names and that kind of stuff, but not surprised. It held major resistance. Looking for pops. How high, how strong? Maybe it's buy the rumor, sell the news under the hurricane. Because again, now it's making land. Maybe tomorrow the hurricane doesn't matter as much. The dollar. I've said this for practically 7 months now, that the straight line move up is what ultimately gets the market to go crazy and bonkers down, like market wise. And I've said, people, like, look at some of these months, like you will see some wide and loose action in the dollar. Said yesterday that I thought we were overextended. You look at the daily, talked about novice gap, and now you had a equal closes. You open and then close and engulf down. Near term, bearish. Long term, again, still bullish the dollar. I don't think this market volatility is anywhere near over. I think it's just pausing. I've said this now for weeks. I prefer the market to chop at the range lows, pop, bring in bulls, then blow out. TLT. Man, what a hard trade. Stopped out yesterday. Didn't get back in today, but people who had, I would say, bigger cojones or wanted to stay in the trade. Whatever your risk profile is. You know what you're willing to lose. We talked about it being extreme. Not surprised it bounced up with big volume. Tomorrow's GDP number. A lot of people are scared of it. I honestly think If he comes in, slow, like a negative, small negative number, I think the market's going to like it. I think bonds will rally because, it'll still confirm recession, but not as deep. Because, again, the market's trying to figure out what to price in. We ultimately know there's bigger storms on the horizon. The VIX, we talked about, get up here, is holding up, get into the 30 level. I've said this, I think at some point it comes back into the 20s, low 20s. I don't know when, don't know how, don't know what causes it. Again, usually don't know the why till later. We talk about that a lot. Because everyone's like, oh, why do I need stops? I'm waiting for the why. I don't understand. And then it's like, boom, something happens way later and stretches you way further and you end up losing. It's not the goal here. This is pretty engulfing, but just keep in mind, it's been up a lot. It has to hold the 29s, then the 28s, then somewhere in the 22s, and could fill this gap. Personally, I've said this multiple times. My thesis is Russia stands down a little bit. I could be totally wrong on this. Oil and gas kind of chop out because you're going in between seasons. Ultimately, you have a midterm election coming. I think Putin's going to probably stand pat and then start to do stuff as you get closer to the election to try to affect the elections. That would be my guess. The next 7-10 days, I think you backfill. It just makes sense, right? The SPY talked about oversold, too quick, 3 gaps, 1 gap, 2 gaps, 3 gaps, engulfing bar up. Near term, I think we've talked about, you fill this gap, get to 380s, maybe it's the 20-day again. Just keep in mind, moving averages matter until they, if the trend is confirming them with why, meaning they do matter. Here was when you hit it, bounce back, came short-armed it. Now again, moving average is not as important, but just keep in mind, if you want to look at it from the perspective of how high, how far, I'm using this reference kind of here. I think you get up to 390, 380s. Do we get back up to 410, 411? That would be crazy, but I've said this before. I think they're, and people are like, oh, you thought it was going to bounce here. Yep. And then stops. That's part of the game. This is a little more extreme. Double bottom near term. Everybody's a bear until they're a bull. And again, technically, you can't be bearish. I've said this any more than this range low until it breaks. I'm sorry. Just is what it is. QQQ, same thing. Making higher lows. Talked about this in the last couple of videos. Like, wow, it's making higher lows. Maybe the market's anticipating rates going lower. Some reason it couldn't confirm that last week at all. Frustrating. Near term, probably fills the gap. 285. I would not be surprised if it comes back into the 290s. That to me seems very logical. Let me do a little draw skis. Let me do some fibbies, some retracements. Because sometimes when the trend is fully over, the fibs line up at important spots. Yeah, exactly. 0.382. Man, that's crazy. Not really. I've seen it a million times. I tell people this, they're like, wow, the computers run the market. And I'm like, yeah, look sometimes how the fibs line up perfectly. Literally perfectly. The 0.5 at resistance, support resistance line. The 0.618 back at maybe this old trend line. This is crazy. Every time, I think to me, it just never gets old. But it's just mind-boggling how I would say organized the chaos can be with Fibonacci stuff. IWM, again, you can't be bearish until it breaks the lows, retests, and looks what? Engulfing, going up, probably into the 179s. You want to see something funny. I bet it's very similarly on the IWM. Bam. Yeah. Jesus. Wow. So probably the 170 to 180 range. Just be smart. Again, the more you're up, the less you own. Do I have to stop the video and get people to realize, you are not trying to get rich on a endless straight line move. What you are anticipating is pops, chops, then flops. And if you get the pop, then you get the chop, then you probably get the flop. And it could be looking very similar to this, but instead you pop, chop, and then it just continues lower. That's my guess. We'll see what happens. Good old gold, your favorite asset, Dan. Yeah, I know. I do like it, but very rarely do I really like it because it has to prove to me Talked about breaking below the channel would be probably the best confirmation of a wipeout near term. Look at that. And then turns right about. Professional gap. This one's tough. I don't know how high it can go. At worst, 157 in the 20-day. We not all agree. Maybe it gets up to the 50-day 160s. Solid trade. I mean, safety. Because I think a lot of people are anticipating easing and coordinated moves. So they're buying some metals near term. Which I think the irony is that they're not going to do what they think people think they're going to do. I think they're honestly going to underwhelm with their they're going to raise rates next meeting, but I think the reaction will be underwhelming how slow they will come in to try to undo the rates. Because if joblessness stays pretty subtle, I mean, the feds really want to put the inflation genie back in the box. They don't say it as clear as we think, but there's times where they have to pick and choose their battles on how they speak about it, because they could literally wash the market out tomorrow. Silver, probably 18s, maybe up to 19s. I mean, there's good little trades. We talked about getting in GDXJ yesterday. So higher low, decent volume the 2 previous days. Inside day, big engulfing bar up. 20-day, maybe the 50-day. 29 to 31. That's your upside. Congratulations if you trade it. Now again, maybe this might not be the most exciting trade. I just trying to stick to what I think was the most obvious. Right now, nothing very seems obvious, but I know if the market's going to rise and gold's going to pop, the miners feel like they might get some juice because they've been beaten so hard and they have longer term potential, right? Like if everyone thinks they're going to open the money printers, right? They're going to draw in some bulls near term. GDX, same thing. Nice gap up the 20-day. I don't like the GDX as much as the GDXJ. It just looks way worse. But maybe the 50-day. Not huge moves, but if you're playing the JNUG, talked about it in like the 21s. 24, not bad. Nugget, if you played that. Look at that. I mean, 20 up to 25. Not too shabby. AG, I know Silver Sleuth was talking about playing it. I think he took profits today. I don't know why he would at the moment, but maybe things change tomorrow. It looks like it wants to fill the gap. I still think it maybe gets up to the 100-day. We'll see. Again, all this stuff is way oversold. Way oversold. But oversold can still continue. AEM, we talked about. This is the one, right? Had volume at the lows, made a lower low. Look at that. Gap, pop. Maybe it gets back up into the 46 range. Like this is my favorite so far of all the setups. I honestly almost traded AEM and I said a GDXJ and could have gotten at 37 up to 40, but I guess GDXJ is not bad. 26 up to, what was it, 26s, and now it's up towards 28. Not amazing. But points are points. You can play a lot of liquidity in the options on that stuff. Newmont, I hate Newmont, but it's I got to watch it. It looks just trash, but it's popping. Remember, I've warned you folks many times, like go look at the monthly. When gold gets slammed, capitulates at the end. I don't know how much lower it has to go, but Newmont will get slammed. PAAS looks pretty good. Slight engulfing. Now again, probably all very, very temporary. Materials, not surprised they bounce because it's oversold. Here you go. X just chopping at the lows. I don't really trust these names. I've said wait for the feds to capitulate, the market to capitulate, whatever. You'll know. The market will go absolutely ape snot crazy. And I just don't think we're there yet with the VIX and the 31s. The dollar is tracking higher, but I'm talking about like monster dollar moves, like intraday. I'm talking about monster bond moves. Like we haven't seen that yet. I mean, and if you think you have, study the past. Study the past. VALE, just leave it alone. Just pass on it. CCJ, not surprised it bounced. Some friends took some nice trades here, closed out. Now it's popping. I've said this all along. I like this name long term, but I think you're going to find it in the 21 range or the 16, 18 range when the market capitulates. I don't trust material names at all. At all. Arrow. I mean, again, it's like gold and silver. Like I trust it for like a bounce. That's it. Copper, same kind of thing. Looks like I see a little trendy. The trendy line, tendy line, whatever the joke is these days. Well, yeah, not surprised it bounced. Could get up to 11s. Don't trust it though. Mosaic. Ag names we talked would bounce. Got close to the trend line, little bounce. I mean, all these names. I mean, you have to pick and choose which ones you want to trade. Nice 90 to 100 in 3 days. Solid work. CF. I mean, some people shorted up here. Not surprised it held the 200-day. I mean, it held it previously. Do you guys see how, like, it's really hard to trade all stocks well? You just got to know the ones that you know pretty well and trade accordingly. You know, I probably should have traded CF, but, man, if y'all know just how much, if you knew what was going on in my life, and again, they're not bad things. It's just things that, like, taking up my time, extraordinary, like accounting issues, firing an accountant, the IRS messing up my taxes, like, new investment property issues, the builder having issues, gas leaks. I mean, it's just family members passing away. Like, it's just been a really crazy, like 7 days. And then trying to mitigate damages in the markets with trades. Whew, trying my best and help everyone out again. Because I mean, I personally feel like I need to say what I know and try to help. Whether people execute or not, or they over leverage, they gamble. Market is a bastard. AMD, again, I don't like any of these names that are at lower lows. I know people are probably fishing. I want to see things that are strong since it's gone. I mean, it's, again, due to bounce, but I don't trust that it's going to be a big bounce. Same thing with NVIDIA. Just making lower lows, probably due to bounce. But, I mean, play the SMH. Play the Soxel. I know some people are trying to get back to eating. Keep in mind, like, that's probably possible. Right? So look at that. Holding the lows. Right? Holding those lows. So it probably could bounce back into the 200s. And, I mean, pulling up the Soxel, just again, because I'm trying to, like, guesstimate where things are. I mean, don't be surprised you get in the 11s and 12s. If you're trying to get back to even, that's not bad. Again, ultimately, if you would have taken profits or taken the losses, you may have been able to find profits elsewhere. Sometimes that's why I try to explain to people. Like, you got to be careful, like, staying in names that aren't working. Sometimes it's better just to clear the deck and look for better names, and ideally you will hit them. Let's talk about Apple today, because today's news, I don't really understand what happened. They're talking about not building out as much phones, which we get. Apple did not say this. However, we've all known that the Apple 14 versus the 13 is not much different, but people are looking at the pros, and this action today seems like a trap, y'all. Look at that. Gaps down. I mean, I got stopped out of my calls that I bought. And it took like a 50% loot loss on it. But if people held it, cool. I mean, I just rolled money into other things. And I just kept cash too. I'm at the point where I have to be very careful, tactile, and be tactical. There'll all be more opportunities. I'm happy if people traded this, because I know people did. We talked about 145. I don't know why that round number stuck in my head, but I was watching it today. It seems to have held. Okay? That's all it is. Just be careful. I mean, ultimately what I think would be the best thing to do here, if you held some of that Apple, man, you get back to 155, take 90% of the stuff off, and just pray that you got to even. Amazon, this is one that I added to because, again, it's not near the lows. Compressing, here we go, making higher highs. Be aware, Amazon has what tomorrow? They have some sort of release, product release. Who knows what it is, or it has any demand. But we have a catalyst, pop. I mean, 121 to 125. I mean, that to me seems like the upside. And if you were buying the stock between 112 to 115, I mean, I think CF was a better trade, but at least it's winning. CRM, you got to leave it alone, right? Making new lows, due to bounce, all this stuff. I'm just going to rattle through the tech that just doesn't seem to be as good as some of the other same. Made new lows, trying to bounce. Be careful, right? Meta, wow, 7 points today. I don't know what was going on here, but man, this thing has been a dog. Once it broke 155, it just kind of was bleeding. I don't know. Microsoft is really hard personally for me, because this one's like, it's barely breaking the lows. And then it broke it. Now you're right back up at 240. We'll see what happens. Because, I mean, if the market does pop, all the stuff's going to pop. It just doesn't seem like it's leading. Now, MicroStrategy was interesting because, again, making higher lows compared to June, holding the 190. This was a play. Netflix, we talked about looking at the names that were holding up better. Nobody, and it's funny, in the Discord room, nobody talked to me about this, which I thought was, like, peculiar, that people were still going after certain names that looked like losers. And I'm like, you got to look at the names that are holding up better, right? Right, exactly. Netflix is another one. There you go. It's 220 to 24. Wow. Big candle today. Congratulations if you traded that. I mean, that's probably the better trade. I mean, again, you can only do what you can do. Roblox, again, another one we said, not anywhere near the lows. Held at the 0.618, bouncing, not surprised. Tesla, I mean, here's another one. It just doesn't look as bad. Some of those other names. Not even close to the August lows or the June lows. Bouncing back. Remember I talked about choppy and sloppy action. Chop precedes big moves. This big chop will lead to a big move in Tesla. I can guarantee you that. Hence why solar, maybe Tesla is on the big time short idea list. Just write that down. Please take notes. Be thoughtful. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. No, those names will be short, so. NDAQ, really wanted to short it here. Missed that. Look at that professional gap. And just look for a pop. Again, I've said this a million times. The problem with NDAQ is like they're the Coinbase of the NASDAQ. You know, like they're the exchange for NASDAQ. And I think when tech bubble gets wrecked, NDAQ gets record too. EXPI, Biogen had some good news today, and we talked about it. Like, this is not bearish stuff, not even anywhere close to the June lows. Like, hopefully I'm beating this over your head, and you're going, wow, all right, well, look for the stuff that's acting better. Not the stuff making new lows. Let's roll into the XLF. Talked about holding range lows, coming back up, probably gets back up 32, 33. FAS is another one I would like to short. Man, we really had it up here. Waited for the bounce, was hoping to get a retest. Didn't. You see my alarm there. That would have been an awesome 82 to 56. Whatever. Moving right along. We'll find out. There's always something else. Morgan Stanley, 200-day fail. But again, holding up. Holding up. See the repeating pattern. JP Morgan, holding at the lows. I would stay away from that. Let's get into solar because I think this stuff is so juicy. And shout out to Lupus for actually going long this. Because if I'm saying it's probably going to retest the highs and you're looking for it, you can go long. It never said that didn't make sense to me. Congratulations. I mean, moves 4 points. Come on, 140. Remember, look at where it started in June. End of quarter markup, window dressing. This is going to hold up. Then hopefully it will flop. Sedge, we talked about this one being a laggard, but not surprised bounces. I mean, if you can see it on any major pop. ENPH, same kind of thing, holding up pretty well. Oh, pray for 320s. TAN, the ETF, piece of crap, bouncing anywhere in the 80s. Now, again, please do not be in a rush to short this stuff because I think you're probably going to see the markets chop and hold up. Unless something comes out of left field, that's the anticipation. Because there's been some pretty bad stuff that's happened. The dollar's moved pretty quickly. Bonds have moved very quickly. Be smart. I mean, again, let it just revert to the mean. Relax. The USO talked about oil holding 76. Probably gets back to the 20-day. Probably 69.70. UNG, I think it got down to the 200-day. Nope, didn't. Whatever, holding around here. Probably going to get down there. Please, people are talking about buying drip and shorting XOP. No, if the market's rallying, you don't do that. Wait for it to fill the gap, maybe. I mean, pray it gets back to 140s because this thing can be incredibly choppy. And oil names are part of the S&P 500. S&P 500 is rising. XOP has some names in it that are going to rise. Someone said short ExxonMobil today. I'm like, I don't know if I would do that. Held the 200-day. I mean, just shorting because it's a green candle. This is what the market makers trying to get people to do. Overshort and overbuy at the wrong times. And I hate to rattle on about this, but that's what people get caught doing. They start shorting the lows and buying the highs. Like they think the trends just always go in a straight line forever. And I'm telling you, shorting is by far more difficult because you have short squeezes and people are always looking to buy. So be thoughtful. Like you have to be very tactful. I can't talk today. You have to be very careful when you're shorting and you're adding or you're entering a position. I'd rather haste and be late than early shorting, like shorting down here. I'd rather short up here, and if I miss it, I miss it. And it can always use the reference lows as the next short point. All right. Please be safe out there. If you have any questions, please hit me up. I'm trying to help out. If you think that you're going to be always winning, it's like living in Florida and not expecting hurricanes. Like, I mean, that's just the reality of it. Like, turbulent weather. The markets are not always predictable. You try to do your best. We still win at great percentages, but what do? We run this like a business. We take money out because when things get bad and hard, well, guess what? If you have a huge monster account and you've never taken any money out, you probably may have given back your whole year, your whole month, your whole quarter. I don't know. That's not the goal. Please hit me up if you have questions. I'm going to try to do a video about how to handle options when you're losing, because that happens. Like today, I had Apple calls for next week, gap down against me. What do I do with it? What's the best way to handle it? Because, I mean, there's not a surefire way, and I could get into a little bit here, but ultimately try to figure out how to mitigate the damage and then roll into options that might be better, or you just stop out and look and go elsewhere. I mean, it's not a complicated video, but I think some people need it. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow and see you in the chat room. Peace. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, stop by the Discord room. A link is in the description below. Also, if you'd like to help support more free content, the PayPal link is in the description as well. I appreciate your continued support of the channel.